Hello and welcome to the Six Star Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Aveline Clark, and you're about to listen to another incredible episode with an amazing human all about how they are making a difference in the world using their passion, their purpose, and the alignment of their genius. Because I believe that we make the greatest impact in our life when we combine our passion with our purpose and our genius. That's where the magic happens. This conversation is going to be good because they always are. There's so much to gain from these. They're beautiful, they're inspiring, and I invite you to open up to see the possibilities of what you can do in your life too. Enjoy. Hello, another episode of Six Star Leaders podcast. I'm so excited today. Our guest is Inbal Claudio. She is a mum of three, a wife, and a 3-time entrepreneur, and currently lives in Southern California. She was a candle maker and then became a tech founder and then became a community builder. She's got a passion for empowering women and specifically women entrepreneurs, and that's led her to create the Like-Minded Collective. It's a social media platform for dreamers, creators, and female founders that has over 2,200 members. Her most recent venture is Like-Minded Consulting that helps brands and businesses and individuals build out communities within their own companies to unlock the power of customer engagement for sustainable growth. Her mission is to make sure every single female founder, no matter what stage of business they're in, knows how incredible they are and has the support they need. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the show today, Inbal. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Wow. After reading that introduction, I'm super excited to get to know you better and ask some questions. So let's dig in. Whereabouts are you in the world?
I am in Southern California. So I'm originally from Israel and I live in Orange County, California with my husband, like you mentioned, and did 4 years in North Carolina, however, and I'm back now in Orange County. So I'm really excited.
Thank you for that. So tell me, who do you serve and how do you serve them?
So the main founder that I serve is early stage women. I started Like-Minded Collective because I was a small business owner who didn't have any entrepreneur friends and had no resources. And I felt like everybody looked at me like a dollar sign, like buy my course, join my membership. And I realized that there were millions of women out there who were unable to grow their business because they didn't have a business bestie, or they didn't have any free resources to help them grow. So my mission really is to help early stage female founders, either aspiring entrepreneurs, 0 to 2 years in business, somebody who wants to pivot and doesn't really know how. So that's the main person that I help.
It's so critical to have resources at that stage, isn't it? Like, I've been there, so many people have been there, and I guess you're hearing that you have that passion for female founders. It just warms my heart because there was nothing for me when I started out, and at the point that I pivoted. Just the I guess the people that I'd met along the way, rather than having specific resources. So yeah, I'm really excited to delve more into that as we get going through the conversation. Inbal, what do you like doing when you're not busy serving people?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I love bowling. Like when I think of something fun, I'm like, I always ask my husband, like when we have like dates, or like a couple hours in the middle of the day, I'm like, let's just go bowling. I feel like it's so fun. But I think it just boils down to spending time with family. I love, spending time with my girls. I love going on date nights with my husband. I love getting girlfriends together and just, spending time in the living room in pajamas, drinking wine. Just really spending time around people that I love.
Beautiful. Who doesn't love that?
I know.
And there's nothing like a good game of bowling to bring out the competitive spirit and And some laughs, right?
I think one time my husband tells me I beat him one time. I feel like I would remember if I beat him one time, but it's so fun, because even if you do horribly, you can just laugh about it because the ball is just so wonky. It just, you're like, how did this even happen? Um, so yeah, it's a lot of fun. We actually so my daughters are 4 and 2. And when my mother-in-law was here, we were like, let's just take them bowling. They had so much fun. My 4-year-old had a blast. So I'm glad that now we can start to bring them with us to have fun.
Oh, fabulous. I love it.
Yeah.
Inbal, you've touched a little bit on the journey or the reason why you set up Like-Minded Collective. And I'd love to know about the journey that you've been on that's brought you to where you are today.
Yeah. Like you mentioned in the bio, my small business was candle making. And so starting a tech startup was completely out of anything that I've ever done before. So my journey it was like a roller coaster. I hired the wrong people in the beginning. I hired a horrible developer in the beginning. I hired a social media agency, which I didn't even need to do because I was so far from launching, but I had no idea what I was doing. And so I think my journey just consisted of, I don't like to say failing, but I fell a lot and learning from all of all the times that I fell and getting back up and continuing and building relationships. So over the 2.5 years that it took from idea to launch, I went through 4 different developers. I went through 8 different launch delays. I spent enough money to get an MBA essentially. And I learned so much along the way, but the biggest lesson that I learned is that I need to continue to make relationships. And I've made such incredible relationships with women who I connected with along the way that helped me eventually figure out what I needed to do. And so when I launched Like-Minded Collective, I had more of an education of, knowledge base of what I should do and how to go about growing a business. And then to this day, I'm still learning from all the women that I come across. So that's been my journey. It's been pretty wild, but I never stopped asking questions and I never stopped advocating for myself. Developers are mostly men, 3 of which were overseas and with different project managers, and it was just horrible. So I knew that what I wanted to build could come to fruition when they told me it couldn't. And so I kept, firing them and finding somebody who believed in what I was doing. And eventually found the most amazing developer who I still work with today.
Wow. I'd love to know, if you could take me back to the candle making. So obviously at some point you decided to be a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I've always had the urge to start my own company. I was in the restaurant and bar industry for a long time, since I was about 16 years old. And I always had ideas on ways to make the business better. And those ideas, 99% of the time, were shot down by the owner of the business that I was in. Mostly men who had more of a money mindset in mind, as opposed to growth. And I realized, I have to work for myself. I cannot work for anybody else. It's not working. And I really just knew that eventually I would start my own business. So initially it was a real estate brokerage company, which I had for 10 years. And then real estate was just not my thing. And then I went back to corporate. And when my husband and I were dating, probably 6 months into us dating, we were like, let's just start a company to just kind of make extra income. And we landed on candles, and it was great because he was in the Marine Corps. He was gone traveling a lot. So it was something that I could build, and create myself. So that's kind of how the candles came about. And I still have it. I still make candles in my kitchen, once a month for orders that come in 7.5 years later.
That's so cool. And when did you go full time? Because you said you going back to corporate, you had a job, then you started doing the candle making on the side.
So there was probably about 1.5 years overlap. where I launched in August. 3 months later, my husband and I moved to North Carolina. But I was still working remote for the company that I was with. And then it just didn't work out, the remote thing. I wasn't getting enough hours or anything to do. And so they eventually said, we have to like part ways. This is not working. And so that's when I went full time. And it was so nice because I could, I did lots of shows. I did farmers markets, I did trade shows, I did conferences, and I was able to put myself fully immerse myself in the candles. And so I did that full time for about a year until my daughter was born. And then I didn't really take much time off and just kept doing that and trying to build and grow. But the in-person events just became impossible because my husband was traveling. I couldn't do the shows. I was nursing. So I did it full time up until I transitioned to Like-Minded Collective more when it launched. But up until then, I was doing candles full time and building a tech company full time.
I'd love to know the where the seed of the idea came to, do the tech. So there was obviously a point there where you realized that you wanted to create something else. Can you share with me when that was and what happened?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, I couldn't do in-person shows anymore. And I, realized, okay, I have to get more into the online space. And that I had no idea what to do. In my head, I was like, okay, I need to connect with influencers and do some influencer marketing. And every platform that I found wanted to charge like $300 to $700 a month to utilize their influencer marketing platform. And I was like, this is crazy. There's no ROI. I don't have a budget. And the influencers, not only am I paying for the platform, I also have to pay to the influencer for promoting my business, And so I was getting so frustrated because, like I said, there's millions of entrepreneurs who needed to connect with influencers, and they didn't have the budget to do that. And then on the other end, there were influencers who were just starting out who couldn't even get any work from these, platforms that they were on. So Like-Minded Collective initially started off as an influencer marketing platform. And that's how I got the idea. I said, I want to create a space where influencers and brands can connect I wanted to charge like $25 a month for super, super, super cheap. And while I was building that and the idea came about for that, that's when I realized wow, there's a missing gap for entrepreneurs, early stage entrepreneurs, to get resources and just connect with one another. So it quickly transformed from an influencer marketing platform to a social networking platform. But that's how the idea initially came about.
At any point in that journey of building the platform, did you ever think, oh my God, I'm just going to toss it in? This is too hard. No one believes in me. Fail. You know what I mean? Because you went through so many developers and bumps along the way.
Yes. I mean, that happened all the time. I remember, so I came up with the idea when my first daughter was 3 months. And then I thought, my husband also deployed overseas, and it was March of 2020. And so I was with my parents, living with my parents. And so I'm trying to build this. My daughter is like a baby, essentially. My husband comes back. We get pregnant with baby number 2. So now I'm pregnant. I have a baby. I'm hormonal, right? Like crying over everything that's happening. And I fired my developer. So all in the same time. And in my head, what was going to launch in 5 months, now I'm starting over 9 months in. And it was so frustrating to me because, like I said, I hired a social media agency where I was pouring money into that with no launch date. So it was like, I'm burning money, basically. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm starting at square one. And what I had initially thought would have launched is now not. And I remember just thinking talking to my husband, he's like, listen, you have to take into consideration that what you will build is going to be so impactful. So think of that, once you launch, it will be incredible. And everybody that I was talking to along the way loved the idea. And so I had to remind myself, like, okay, I just need to keep going. And he also told me, he's like, just think of this as you're getting your MBA. You're learning so much along the way that you're going to utilize. If it's not for this company, then it will be for a different company, that you start eventually. So that kind of stuck with me. And I realized, like, he's completely correct, and I just felt like I had to keep going. I also started to create community through Instagram before I even launched. So I was already connecting with people and telling them, hey, my name is Inbal. This is what I'm starting. I would love to invite you to join the platform. It's going to be totally free. I was going to launch it completely free for 3 months when I launched beta, and I had people so excited about it. And that kind of helped push me to continue, to keep going and actually launch this product that I told people was eventually going to come, and they were super excited. So to answer your question, all the time. And I still do sometimes. I still do, now that it's launched and helped thousands of people and made connections. I still am like, some weeks it's difficult, I think, just in general, to keep going sometimes.
Absolutely. But I guess because you've created this community of people, they force you to keep going, right? Because you've got to show up and continually evolve and innovate and support and help and find things for them, the needs that you see. Would that be right?
Yes, absolutely. Now that I help women build out communities for themselves, and I do workshops and I teach, and, the one thing I say, the benefit of community is so that there's people around you that help you keep going. That's the biggest benefit. As a founder, cultivating a community where they understand the value that you're bringing, you help them in so many ways. However, the value that they bring to you to keep moving forward in your business is invaluable. So yes, absolutely, you're correct. Now that I have women who, when I see two people doing an IG live together or a podcast together or meeting in person and cheersing, a glass of wine, that to me just brings so much joy. And I remember those when I think sometimes I just want to hit escape, and just delete. But I can't do that because I care about the women in my community so much. And I know the value that Like-Minded Collective brings.
So looking back now on the journey, what's been the biggest kind of reward for you when you look at the pains and the struggles? If there's one thing in there, what would that be?
I have heard one of the women say this before, and this kind of stuck with me a lot. So she was one of my beta testers in the beginning, and she's still very active in the community. And she said there were times where she wanted to shut her business down, and then she would come to, a networking event or a strategy session or a coaching session. And she realized that all she needed to do was just be around women who believed in her. And she is thriving in her business, So I think that is a story that just really sticks in my head. And just makes me so happy to know that somebody didn't shut down their business when the percentage of women businesses that fail is so high because they don't have the support or the resources or the finances to continue.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And women we do things differently. We are not like men, and we come into business and there's this, these patriarchal, archaic structures really that just don't serve. And I think some of those failures that have happened is A, because of that, and B, because women have not had the community around them, for them to thrive, because women thrive by connecting with each other. You would know this, you've probably done the research and you understand that, and that's why it feels so good for you to facilitate and have this community of women. But you made the comment just before about the lady that thought she was going to throw the towel in and then went, wow, no, she just needed a community of women who believed in her. And
yes, it's so valuable.
Yeah, that's when you said that, it just there was something that struck in me, and I think that's been missing as well in my journey. at times, and maybe men might get this as well, but I don't. There is a certain type of male, like, you know, if you look at like the disc personalities, right, and you look at, well, what's personality type is more suited to being a business owner. Well, like, you know, you got your high D and your high I, and a lot of men can be very independent, right? They don't need others around them like women do, and sometimes women just need to like others to bounce things off, to share their stories with. Sometimes it's to solve a problem, but sometimes it's just to share and listen, isn't it? And without that ability, you know, it can be very lonely.
Yes, it's so lonely. And that's why the motto for Like Minded Collective is where friendship comes first and business comes second, because it really is just a place to be welcomed, you know? I think of like networking events where you put a name tag and you start like shaking hands, you know, Like Minded Collective is that hug where like you come in and you meet a friend and you just give a hug and you're like I feel so much better, you know? It's just a different feeling. And yeah, I agree with you. Women just need it more. We do workshops now monthly. It used to be weekly in the beginning. And we've talked about so many different aspects of business, from finances to money mindset to figuring out your why, website, copy, and I could say like at least like once every month or two, somebody cries during a Q&A session because they're just like feel so comfortable opening up about their business and their struggles, and they know that they're in a safe place. And women need that, you know, being in your own head as a solopreneur is so difficult. So you definitely need women around you who will, you know, support you and shout about your business from the rooftops. And, you know, it's invaluable to have that.
Couldn't agree more. Inbal, what was the moment that hopefully there was a moment that you went, oh my God, I'm on my path. I'm in my flow. This is what I'm here to be doing. Was there a moment that you had that awareness, that insight, and that, you know, that resonance with that, oh yes, this is it?
Yeah. It's funny because I was just reading back in my journal a year ago. And so it was like maybe 15 months ago. So last August of 2022, I was in a point in my business where I was getting so frustrated. So just to give a little bit of context, I launched the platform for free, and then I introduced a membership that was very low ticket. And then I started to offer more features. And so I increased the membership, and I saw people signing up and there was not much retention. And then it became more difficult to get people to sign up. And, you know, usually that's a messaging problem, not a, you know, what you get problem, or a pricing problem. However, for me, I could not stop thinking about like, why are people not joining? Why are people not converting? Why are people not, you know, why am I not retaining my customers, my clients? And I decided to make the platform free. I said, I lost my why along the way, and I need to come back to the reason why I started this platform. And so in August of last year, I made everything completely free. And it was just so liberating to just be able to invite people into this space that was free for everything. And I loved it. And it was very funny. People, when I announced that, people were like, wait, so how are you going to make money? That was their number one concern. Like, how are you going to make money? And I'm like, let me figure that out. You know, don't worry about that. Just enjoy and let me figure this out. And so once I started to see more people joining and seeing, you know, the collaborations and the value that people were getting, that's when I knew that I had made the right decision. What I was creating was super valuable and I was on the right path. Now like 60% of it is free, and I have a membership that's more hands-on. So we do small group brainstorming and hot seat coaching, but the rest is free, and it will always be free. Because I felt good about that decision, and I felt like what was coming out of the platform really defined my mission of making sure that women feel like they're important and that they matter, and just a place for them to come to. So it was that moment, August 2022, where I was like, okay, I'm on the right path. This is what I need to be doing.
Oh, brilliant. That's so cool. Inbal, what do you think or believe is your superpower or your genius?
So I think I have two. My ultimate superpower is connecting people. Like I love bringing people together, whether it be, a referral, a collaboration, just two people that need to connect because they do similar things. But my other superpower when it comes to my consulting and my coaching is being able to think outside the box. So for me, I don't usually have like a framework that I work with people. Usually we just tackle problems that they're dealing with in the moment. And it's always like, okay, I'm just going to like brain dump on you and give you so many ideas. I think when we were talking, I was like, oh, you should just start in-person events with your neighbor that just moved in,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's just that for me is my superpower where somebody comes to me with something that they're looking for, they want to change, or they want some advice in business. And I find ways that either have worked with me or just ways that I think could benefit them and just, unleash like 10 to 15 ideas, and they can sift and figure out what works for them and what doesn't. We can work through that together, or they can do that on their own.
Mm. That's great. I love it. And yes, when we first met, we were just talking and I told you about my neighbor, and she's got a couple of e-commerce businesses, just started a second one, and she's got like a baby and a 2-year-old. And you were like, hey, you guys should do this and this. And you just started like, ideas popping. And it was like, wow, you are really, really great at this. Yeah. When you're in
I
flow.
just like, because I know the value of in-person, like I just started in-person events 4 months ago, and I've seen the value of it. And I also know that it's so hard to do by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, you have a neighbor that is, ready to possibly do this with you. You should do it. I wish I had a neighbor like that.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to her for sure over some Christmas drinks or something, or New Year's drinks. And
yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And say, hey, let's do this. Okay, you have done a lot, obviously, since you started candle making. And oh, by the way, hopefully we'll have the link to your candle making website as well in the show notes, so people can check out that store as well as the Like-Minded Collective. But I would love to know what the future holds for you. Like, do you have a vision for where you want to take this?
I would love to see Like-Minded Collective become the next Facebook meets LinkedIn, but for women. I think that there's so many restrictions and algorithms and, downplaying women-owned businesses on these different social networking platforms, that I want this to be a safe place for women to go to and just talk about business, talk about life, and be able to shout about their business from the rooftops. So that's kind of where I see Like-Minded Collective going. I just think in general, as far as community building goes, I really want to see more women either being a part of other people's communities or starting their own. And it doesn't even have to be business related. It could be like a religious community or a mom community or a yoga community, fitness community, knitting community, whatever it is that, I just want to see more women finding their people. I just think that is so powerful just for women in general, that's where I would love to see community go.
That's wonderful. And I had another question for you. I feel like you've answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's the impact that you want to make in the world?
I just want to see more women entrepreneurs succeed. And I want to just provide a space that allows them to do that unapologetically. I think that we, as women, we doubt ourselves more than men. And like I said, the stats of, women-owned businesses failing in 5 years are just so high, that my mission really is to make women entrepreneurs successful. And whether that means, closing down their business and starting a new one, or, being happy with the decision to close their business and go join corporate, or, start a family and being a stay-at-home mom, or start a family while being an entrepreneur, whatever that definition is for women, I just want to see women succeed.
Beautiful. We all do. I think every woman listening to that would resonate. And we know that, the world is our oyster. It's not about having everything or doing everything, but it's about doing what lights us up. And what I feel that you've created is this space for women to be able to connect with other women so that they can have these mirrors and a space where they can feel safe to be their best self in a world that doesn't give that.
Yeah. I mean, when I, like, even a year ago, 2 years ago, anybody would message me on Instagram and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do they want from me? What do they want to sell me? And people still have that stigma when somebody just cold messages them. And I want to break that. Like, I'll never forget this story. So one of the women in my community, she's just an amazing girl. She was having some health problems. And so another woman from the community messaged her on Instagram and said, like, hey, I saw your story. I would love to kind of chat and see if I can help. And the girl said, I can't really, like, I'm not looking to hire somebody to help me. And she said, no, I just want to help you. Like, I just want to talk as a friend. And like, they're both a part of Like Minded Collective. They had connected in Like Minded Collective. And it's just, I want to break that where, it's okay to reach out to somebody and like allow somebody to be there for you as a friend and give advice and be a shoulder to cry on. I just, don't want everybody to think like, oh, this person's messaging me. Like, what do they want from me? I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of that. When I see a message, I'm like, oh gosh. But I don't want that to be the case with women in Like Minded Collective. We really need friends, and you can charge for your services, but I think it's, great to just provide value and just be there for other people, because what you get in return is going to be so much greater.
Yeah, I love that. There's so in so many ways, and it really resonates with myself, the work that I do, the people around me, this podcast, which brings me to another question. What does being 6-star mean to you? I mean, this is the 6-Star Leaders podcast, and I like to ask all my guests this question. So yeah, what does being 6-star mean to you?
I just think it's leading by example and being somebody that, you're able to change the mindset and the norm for some people. I think it's okay to change the narrative in some ways, of what people think should happen or how things should be done. Like, I remember I am launching a 6-week program about community building, and I was going back and forth of how I wanted to present this and how I wanted to price it and what I wanted to offer. And everybody said, you're not charging enough. You're not charging enough. You're not charge more. Like, and I did at first, and I'm like, oh, like, this doesn't feel right. And so finally I just looked into myself and I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to charge like thousands of dollars for something that, I maybe could, but that doesn't feel right for me because my audience is not that person. So I think just being okay with, choosing your own path and then showing people like, it's okay to do it this way. You don't have to always go and charge more. Like, I feel like everyone's telling everybody to charge more, and so I just feel like it's that sense of just doing something that is right and allowing other people to make their own decision and be okay with that.
Thank you. That's really beautiful. I love it. Inbal, we are coming close to the end, and I've just so loved talking with you and learning more about Like-Minded Collective, your journey, what you believe in, where you're taking this, and I absolutely love it when people are here to be themselves and on their unique path and delivering their genius in a way that's serving the world in some way. And you're doing that hands down, 100%, and creating a space for other people to do the same, which is just brilliant. So I myself haven't been into your platform, but I am looking forward to being there. I'm definitely going to go and check that out and put myself in a space of I guess vulnerability, being around other people for the first time, other women in a different space. I think that's if I can explain it that way. However, I wanted to ask you, how can people get in touch with you?
So I am on Instagram at Inbal Claudio. Like-Minded Collective's Instagram is like.minded.collective. And I run both myself. So get in touch with me. I just love connecting with women in general. If there's anything that I can help with, please message me. I'm an open book, and all the links to join Like-Minded Collective are in there. So yeah, would love to have you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll have all the links on the show notes as well, below, wherever you're watching this, if it's YouTube or on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever. So that's wonderful, and definitely go and check it out. Inbal, final question for you as we wrap up. I'd love to hear from you, like a piece of advice or a tidbit or a little gold nugget to leave our audience with, if you've got one.
Yeah, I have a lot. I feel like the one that I think is very beneficial is reach out to people who are a couple steps ahead of you and try to get them on a call. Just reaching out as, genuine as you can and say, I'm looking to start a community. I would love to just get to know you and see how you started yours. Or, I'm a mom and wanting to start a business. I would love to kind of chat about how you navigated that. Or I'm a business owner and want to be, start a family. I'd love to chat with you about that. I think so many people are scared to reach out to people that are doing what they're doing just to build relationships. And that's the one piece of advice that I would give is reach out to people, ask for 15 minutes of their time. And some people may say no, and that's okay, but keep asking and keep trying to connect with people, because the relationships that you'll build will be invaluable. And then one other thing, when you're on the call, you can always ask, who in your network do you think would be beneficial for me to connect with? And that's a really good way to just keep meeting new people, just to build your network.
Brilliant. Love it. That's gold. Thank you so much. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here on my podcast today and sharing your wisdom and your story and everything, and your energy and your light. It's beautiful. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I've been waiting for this podcast, so I'm really excited to chat.
Thank you. I look forward to speaking with you very soon as well.
Bye.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I did in hosting it. So please rate, review, and leave us a comment below. And finally, also, I'd love you to share it with a friend, someone who you think would get something positive from it, someone who would enjoy it. We're here for each other, so please share the love. If you'd like to reach out and talk to me and learn about how you can make a bigger difference in the world by serving the ideal clients that you have with purpose, please get in contact over at journeypoint.com.au. See you on the next episode of 6 Star Leaders Podcast.